Hello and welcome to Story and Stone. My name is Amanda. I am here today to give you the weekly reading for the collective for the 29th of September through to the 5th of October. Just before we start, this is a reading for the collective and may not necessarily resonate with you, and that's okay. Just take what does and leave the rest. I do offer personal readings, but I will never ever approach you for a reading. So if someone does claim to be me and offer you a reading, it is a scam. Please do not give them any money, but instead report and block them. The cards I'm using today are the Illustrated Herbiary, the Illustrated Crystallary, the Illustrated Bestiary, all by Maia Toll. Okay, so how was your week last week? We are coming right to the end of a very intense September. We've got 2 days left, so the Monday and the Tuesday, and then we go into October. You'll see this reading before I release the October monthly reading, but I can tell you that October is a lot lighter, a lot brighter, a little bit happier. So I think September was really like that final push to get through the shit that we just refused to deal with. So I know September has been a pretty intense month for me, and I'm really looking forward to this new October energy coming in. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, so the very first card for Monday is Human. Remember forgetting. Okay, so if you're of the same belief, okay, can you just hang on one sec? Okay, sorry about that. I could hear my husband's video playing. I thought if I can hear it, you can most probably hear it. Okay, so Monday, we have Human. Remember forgetting. Now, if you're of the same belief as me, you believe that before we come down here into this human body, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we sign a contract basically that says this is what we're here to learn this time or to experience this time. But really we're these spiritual beings that are amazing, that have all these special gifts and talents. And then when we come down into our human body, we forget all of that instantly. And then we spend the rest of our lifetime trying to remember what we already know. So all of these experiences that we have, they've been predestined by the contract or the experiences that we agreed to experience here. So, hello, husband. Okay, so on Monday, they're saying you have to remember that you already know all this stuff, that you've just forgotten it, as is what happens to everybody. And that it is actually not a point of learning, but really it's more that we have to remember what we're capable of as spiritual beings having a human experience. So maybe there's something going to happen. This is on the 29th of September, so we've got 2 days left of that intense energy, although I can feel it's starting to wane. And I think they just want to give that one final push of, remember, you're a spiritual being having a human experience. So you've forgotten what you're capable of, and now it's time for you to remember. Okay, then on Tuesday, we have Azurite, activate the void. So this card today is telling me that this is about going within. Rebecca Campbell talks about the void quite a bit, and it's about going into our inner temple, she calls it, going within to our heart space, to our soul, and activating that space inside of us where nothing exists but potential. And it's really important that we remember that all the potential that there is comes from within. That we are just spiritual beings creating or co-creating our life, and the potential that we have is within. And I feel like this card is saying, okay, you have to remember first of all on Monday that we are spiritual beings, and that we've just here having a human experience, which means we are forgetting what we're actually capable of. And then we have to go within us to activate that space within us that has all that potential to help us co-create what we want in our lives. I know I most probably made that sound very, very complicated, but it's actually very, very easy. The easiest way to get into that void, to get into the inner space, is to meditate. And I can feel some of you already rolling your eyes. Oh, not this bloody meditation again. Meditation is so different from what it used to be in the 70s when people would sit under trees and meditate for months and months and months. Meditation can be just going out and into your garden and, just gardening or something. There's, I like to do moving meditations. So things like knitting for me is very meditative, and I often get messages or inspiration when I'm just knitting. I mean, it can't be a hard pattern, but just a simple sock pattern. I often will get things through. It's when you're doing something that your mind doesn't actually have to necessarily be engaged in. So like walking, swimming, just sitting out in the nature or gardening, those type of things that sort of keep your body busy, but so that your mind or your heart space is also free to receive the messages that we don't always hear. So that's what you're being asked to do on Tuesday, is to do some mindful meditation or some mindful movement that helps you get into that inner space, into that void, so that you can activate it and remember what you have forgotten. Okay, so on Wednesday, we have the monarch butterfly, digest your past. Okay. The more we hang on to our past, the more we are going to bring it into our present and into our future. And really, the past should stay in the past. We should learn lessons from it, definitely, but we shouldn't keep bringing it into our now or into our future. We need to really focus on processing what has happened to us in the past, coming to terms with it, letting it go, surrendering to the lessons that we were supposed to learn, and then moving on. Because the more we hang on to that past, the more it affects our now, which in turn affects our future. And if you're hanging on to say for example, a past relationship that you can't let go of, that past experience is blocking you from meeting anybody else or from having any other rewarding and fulfilling relationships. So things like that. So on Wednesday, they're asking you to process your past. So I'm not talking about ancestral past. I feel like this is more just past from your experiences, which could have been triggered by ancestral, but I don't think they need you to go that deep. I think they just want you to go through how you live your life and make sure that you're not living your life from a past experience that you haven't learned from or processed yet. Okay. Oh, wow, you're back again. Okay, so for Thursday, we've got the sea turtle again. Find your element. So, obviously, this is really, really important that you do this, because this has come up like 3 or 4 times now. They really, really want you to find where you shine. What is your element? Now, we discussed this last week about seeing someone who is in their element just flowing and just so absorbed and focused in what they're doing that they are absolutely glowing. Like you can always see the people who are doing what they love. They always have that sparkle in their eye. They always have that enthusiasm. And so on Thursday, Spirit is saying, come on, you need to find what makes you spark. Find your element. And it could be something that you do, like making music or writing or cooking or whatever that is. But it could also just be that you are in your element when you are somewhere. So out in nature, at the beach, in the city even, you know, some people are really, you know, city people. And I know I often talk about nature and that's because that's something that resonates with me. But it could be you wandering the streets, that sounds a bit shady, but just wandering the streets, taking in the inside, the architecture, the different people, all that sort of stuff. That could be your element. They really want you to find where you shine this week. So Thursday is the day to do that. Okay, then we have Carnelian. Get curious. Okay, so from Wednesday, we're moving into the October energy. And as you can see, it's starting to get a lot lighter energy. So as I said, for Wednesday, we want to digest our past, but we're not going deep into ancestral wounds. We're going into our past, our experiences that we're still bringing forward and using to make decisions based on what's best for us when it's most probably not best for us. And then we're going into find your element, find what makes you happy. And then we've got for Friday the card Carnelian, get curious. I often talk about how important it is to have a childlike wonder. If you hang out with a little kid for long enough, you'll see that they're interested in nearly everything, except maybe food. Trying to feed a 2-year-old, it's a nightmare. But they're interested in anything and everything. You know, you can talk about a rock for a whole half an hour because they're just so fascinated by the rock. And so Spirit is saying on Friday, they want you to get curious about everything. Be that child. Bring your inner child out. Be curious about what's happening in your life and in the community around you. Get curious because obviously there is something there that you need to learn, that you need to see. So they're really stressing that it's really important on Friday that you get curious about stuff. Now, you might get curious about it and learn about it and then think, nah, that doesn't really spin my boat. It's not my element. But that's okay. You don't have to keep that interest for the rest of your life. You can learn about it and go, that was really interesting, but now I'm going to move on because that's not something that makes my heart sing. And that's what they really want you to focus on, is just being curious about everything. Okay, then on Saturday, we have Trillium, which is a herb or a plant, and it's spirit into nature. Spirit into matter. Okay, so the very first thing they're giving me is, if we want to be co-creators of our life, we need to, first of all, get curious, okay? Because you can't know what you want in your life unless you've learned about stuff. So, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, I wish I was rich and famous, blah, 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 blah. That's what I want to do. But some people, when they get there, they realize that's not what they want. They don't want to be on all the time. They don't want to be at the mercy of paparazzi or people wanting money off them or people wanting something from them, you know, and they realize that actually that's not what they wanted, that they wanted something entirely different. So we need to be really curious about what's out there for us so that we can know that when we want to turn something into physical reality, that we are sure that we want it. And Saturday is about thinking about what you want to co-create in your life so that you can bring it down through your chakras into your heart chakra, and then it can go down into your lower chakras so that you can act on it and bring it into reality. really, really important that you need to think about what you want. You know that saying, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. That is Friday and Saturday is really something like, it's got that type of energy. You know, get curious about stuff, but make sure that if you think about bringing it into reality, that you actually really want it. Okay, so we've had this card, and it's a really good card to have, especially on a Sunday. It's red clover, centered and ground, or center and ground. Now, especially on Saturday when we're doing all that work up in our top chakras, so we're thinking about what we want to create. So we're up in our head, in our spirits, in our consciousness and all that sort of stuff. So we're up here in this top half of our chakra system. And so on Sunday, it's really important that you make sure, if you have been doing that type of work, that you really center and ground. Now, you know what I'm going to say. Get out in nature. Go to the beach, go for a bushwalk, go out into the park, barefoot, run around, not in the bush, okay, snake season. But get out and ground yourself, or even just do some meditation or a grounded visualization. Last week, I put in the video my ground, protect, and center, I think it is, guided visualization that you can do. So very important for Sunday, for the end of the week, that we really center and ground ourselves so that we can head into the next week, very present and centered. Okay. So the overall theme this week is turquoise, find your way home. So this card is really about this card usually in the past has meant that it's okay to take risk. It's okay to leave the nest, basically, and experience life, because there will always be a way for you to come home. That's what it has traditionally meant to me. However, I feel like in this week's reading with all these other cards, it's just saying we need to find our way home. Now, that doesn't mean our physical location. It's really got a really strong connection to the first card we had for the week, which was human, remember, forgetting. So it's talking about finding our way home to our spiritual selves. That's the strong message that I'm being sent here today. That's the overall theme for this week. Don't you just love how they all tie in together? They all got that theme. We discussed this last week about how they give us one thing to concentrate. And this week it's about remembering that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. That we're not trapped by our past to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. We can process them and let them go and move on and co-create new realities for us by finding what brings us joy, finding our element, getting curious about life, and then thinking about what we want to bring from thought or spirit into action or into matter. And then remembering that we always need to center and ground ourselves so that we are in the present, because that is the only place where we can co-create. We can't co-create in the past. We can't co-create in the present, in the future. We can only co-create now. So we need to remain centered and grounded. And that will help you find your way home to your spiritual home. And that spiritual home is different for everybody. Okay, well, look at that. I am under 20 minutes this week. Woohoo! I am getting really, really good at just being concise, which is not usually who I am. I usually like to waffle quite a bit, which is what I'm doing now. So, have a great week. As you can see, we're getting this lighter energy coming through. So we're going to have a much healthier October. It's not going to be so intense. So tomorrow, Tuesday, the October reading will be out. So click on that and have a watch of that when it comes through. In the meantime, have a great week, and I will see you in the next video.